Is it a good idea to purchase the RX 9070 XT to enjoy the latest games on a 4K monitor? Let's find out. To test this, I paired the Gigabyte Gaming OC version of the RX 9070 XT with the Ryzen 7 9800X3D CPU and will be experiencing the games on one of the best monitors for the job. This is QD OLED 240Hz 4K display by MSI, model number 272URX. If you are interested in any of the products featured in this video, you can find them on Amazon at the links in the description below. There is no need to spend that much money on Windows 11 Pro when you can get it much cheaper at cdkeyoffer.com. Additionally, use discount code iVadim to get 25% off and bring the total price down to $22. Furthermore, you can find Windows 10 Pro as well as Microsoft Office at much cheaper prices as well. Get yours now at the link in the description below and don't forget to use discount code iVadim to get 25% off. The RX 9070 XT has one massive selling point, and that is FSR 4 resolution upscaling that also delivers anti-aliasing solution for native gaming. So if you are gaming at native resolution, it is also important to have support for the latest FSR 4. Of course, that is if you want a nice image quality, because TAA as well as FSR 3 and earlier versions, they just don't do the job properly, and that includes Epic's TSR as well. They're just not fit for purpose. AMD's FSR 4 as well as Nvidia's DLSS 4 are way better at anti-aliasing and upscaling. At the moment, even the newest games do not come out with native FSR 4 support, but you can use the AMD's Adrenaline software to actually upgrade some of the games to FSR 4. It is quite simple, just locate the game in the gaming section of the app and enable Super Resolution 4. Once that's done, it works. However, unfortunately, it doesn't work for all of the latest games. For example, Doom: The Dark Ages, as well as Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Those are the other two games that I want to check out today, because those are the latest games. They do not support FSR 4 at all. And that is a huge shame, because both of those latest games came out with native DLSS 4 support at launch, which is impressive. I mean, yeah, Nvidia is still ahead of AMD in that regard. Unfortunately, FSR 4 is not being as widely adopted as I would have liked. Right, with that out of the way, let's take a look at the performance. We are in the Oblivion Remastered 4K resolution using the high graphics quality preset with textures maxed out, hardware ray tracing enabled and set to low. We'll take a look at higher settings for ray tracing if the FPS is good enough, but that might not be necessary because this settings configuration is still looking great in terms of visuals and it performs way better. We are using FSR 4 native resolution, no frame generation for now. Anti-aliasing provided by FSR 4 is so good compared to FSR 3 that this game shipped with. It is night and day. Yeah, this looks great. The problem with FSR 3 is that even at native resolution, if you're using anti-aliasing only, it's not going to look good. Finer details will be lost and even the textures will not look as crisp and detailed. But with FSR 4, this game looks glorious on the RX 9070 XT. And the performance is actually not too bad already. We're getting 40 plus FPS consistently. Our video memory usage is adequate, below 12 gigabytes. That's nice. And the GPU power consumption is at around 330 watts. The fact that the 9070 XT can deliver this level of performance even with hardware ray tracing enabled is quite impressive. This just tells me that AMD has finally caught up to Nvidia in that regard. Yeah, resolution upscaling and anti-aliasing solution, FSR 4, looks good. It is comparable to DLSS 4. Ray tracing performance, while still worse, is competitive, I would say. So the only thing that AMD now has to focus on is adding FSR 4 in every new game. And that is something that they failed to do so far. Let's set the resolution upscaling to quality mode now to improve the performance. Check this out. 60 FPS. FSR Quality mode. And because we're using FSR 4, the image still looks good. It is close to native 4K in terms of visuals. Yeah, brilliant. I like it. Oh, that's a wolf. Let's fight. Yes, let's freaking go. There we go. That's dealt with. Surprisingly, the frame rate as well as the frame time is a little smoother than what I've seen on any recent NVIDIA graphics card. To enjoy an even higher frame rate, we can lower that resolution upscaling quality to balanced. That preserves most of the finer details whilst delivering a higher frame rate. Yes, the image is softer compared to FSR 4 quality mode, but that is to be expected. When you lower the resolution upscaling quality on any upscaler, the image becomes softer. Personally, I prefer this settings configuration. FSR Balanced mode still looks good enough, and we're getting higher frame rate, which is great for the image fluidity on the screen. Perfect. 70 plus FPS in some scenes, 60 plus in other scenes. That tells me that we will stay at either close or above 60 FPS pretty much in any scene in this game. Let's try higher quality ray tracing. Medium as well as high and ultra presets for the hardware ray tracing perform exactly the same, so might as well just go for the best one available, Ultra. FSR stays on balanced, no frame generation. This is what I'm talking about. Check it out. We maxed out ray tracing and the FPS is still looking good. 60 plus. Wow, okay. There are some dips below 60, but they're rare. And thanks to the maxed out ray tracing, the reflections look so beautiful. Realistic. Wow, okay. This is what I've been talking about. AMD's graphics cards handle ray tracing pretty well nowadays. The RX 9000 series is good. The only downside is that FSR 4 is not being added to every new game the same way DLSS 4 is. That is unfortunate, and it's one of the main things that I think AMD should focus on. Just get FSR 4 into more games, because it's a good feature. Why not add it? Encourage game developers to do that. If we want a better image fluidity, then we can enable frame generation on top of this. Let's take a look at that. The FPS is much higher now, and the controls responsiveness is still there. It's good. However, those frame rate spikes that you see on the graph, yeah, that is something that I don't like, and the image actually feels kind of about the same as it was when it was 60 plus. only because of those frame rate hitches. So unfortunately in this particular game, yeah, I don't think I prefer using frame generation. I'd rather keep it turned off. It's not for me. Frame generation off, because I don't like it, as I mentioned just now, and FSR 4 performance mode. That's what I want to check out. Ray tracing stays on ultra. Everything else is on high. Well, the textures are on ultra as well, but textures do not affect the GPU performance. They're only taking up space in video memory. This is 1080p upscaled to 4K, and because we're using the latest FSR 4 resolution upscaling, this still looks pretty darn good. Obviously, the image is even softer than what we had with DLSS Balanced, but this is still very usable and enjoyable. If you want a higher frame rate and you don't mind a slightly softer image, then this option is pretty good, because we can get well above 60 FPS with the ray tracing maxed out. Hardware ray tracing, not software, okay? This is great. The game still looks beautiful. The reflections look good. The lighting looks amazing. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is my favorite game at the moment. It is just brilliant. I can't recommend it enough. Let's take a look at the settings, shall we? We are at 4K resolution, and yeah, there is no FSR at all in this game. Not even an older version. It's just CSS and DLSS 4. As a result, because we have an AMD graphics card in this system right now, we can't use DLSS for obvious reasons, so we'll have to use XeSS. That's Intel's anti-aliasing and resolution upscaling solution. It's funny how Intel's CSS is actually in this game and AMD couldn't work with the game developer to add FSR 4. All the graphics settings are set to the absolute maximum, epic. We can expect something like 40 plus FPS in more demanding scenes in the game and 50 plus in other scenes. Yeah, so during combat it will be something like 40-ish, which isn't great. I definitely prefer a smoother, more fluid experience in this game. But as in other Unreal Engine 5 games, we don't actually have to use the epic graphics quality preset. If you lower it to high by just one notch, the visuals remain pretty much the same and you can enjoy higher frame rates. The only thing that is not GPU intensive is textures, so we can keep them on epic. Have a look at what difference that makes. We are now at 60 plus FPS, native 4K resolution. I'm not joking. Check it out, just to be sure that I'm not mixing something up. That's native resolution, 100% 4K, high graphics quality. Alright? That's pretty amazing, actually. This game features software-based ray tracing, and yeah, one of the main issues I have with the RX 9000 series graphics cards is that FSR 4 is not in every new game. For example, this one, we're using CSS, resolution upscaling, and anti-aliasing solution. At the moment, we're just using anti-aliasing, and even so, we are at native resolution. The image quality is just not good. Compared to what I've seen with DLSS 4, yeah, this is just night and day difference. The overall image presented on the screen just doesn't look right. It feels like we're playing on, well, I wouldn't say on low graphics settings, but medium at best because of how bad everything looks. The detail quality is just... it's quite horrible. If you've tasted FSR 4 and DLSS 4, this is rough. By the way, ZSS works differently on Intel graphics cards, so don't judge the resolution upscaling itself. It's just that on other GPUs that are not Intel GPUs, it works much worse. I mean, the image quality delivered is much worse because it's not using AI capabilities of the GPU at all. Yeah, let me know if you would like me to test this game on an Intel GPU. I have the B580 and I'm actually quite interested in that GPU, how it handles modern games. I haven't tested it for a while. Let me know in the comments if you're interested. Doom: The Dark Ages is the freshest game on our menu today. It came out just a couple of weeks ago, and it doesn't support FSR 4 either, which is a shame. Anyway, let's take a look at the 9070 XT performance in Doom. We are at 4K resolution, and we are using FSR native resolution, no frame generation. I decided that it's best to actually use optimized settings. We optimized these settings for higher end graphics cards. This game still doesn't have full ray tracing enabled, so going above high on some of these options is just pointless because there is no visual difference and the performance is pretty much the same. But for the purpose of, making this video more relevant in the future, when those updates come out, I think it's best to use these optimized settings. We actually managed to max out the texture pool size because we have access to 16 gigabytes of memory on this graphics card, which is great. No issues with textures, shadows, high, reflections high, pretty much everything is on high. Decals Ultra Nightmare, which is the absolute maximum, Particles Nightmare. Actually, we can use Ultra Nightmare on that as well because it's same performance, same quality. Everything else is a mix of high and ultra, Ultra Nightmare, geometrics. The only medium is directional occlusion. After all, we want to target higher FPS in this game for smoother gameplay. The visuals are nice to have, but they're not necessary, okay? At native 4K, we're getting somewhere around 50-ish FPS. This isn't perfect. We definitely need more FPS in this game. This isn't good enough. Personally, I think that 120 FPS is the best target for this game, but 90 FPS is fine too. Let's use the resolution upscaling set to quality mode to boost that performance. This is much better. We are now getting above 80 FPS. The image on the screen is much smoother, much more pleasant. In terms of image fluidity, this is a perfectly fine experience. I think this is good enough. And as long as you don't actually stop and start pixel peeping at what's going on, yeah, it's still kind of okay to use FSR in this game, even though this is an older version, not FSR 4. It doesn't look as nice, obviously, because all of the finer details, they just don't look the same. But for killing demons, it's fine. It's not as big of a problem as it is in a game such as Clair Obscur Expedition 33, for example. Because over there, it's all about enjoying the visuals on the screen. In this game, it's all about just killing the demons. And take a look how smooth the frame rate is. Yeah, this is a first game today where we've seen that kind of smoothness. This is perfect. This is how games should be made. Of course, we can improve that performance even more by using a lower resolution upscaling quality. Let's go ahead and enable FSR Balanced mode. That allows us to get closer to that sweet 90 FPS spot, but we're still experiencing dips below 90. Yeah, it's not perfect. It's not a perfect 90 plus FPS experience, but this is an enjoyable experience nonetheless. Although, obviously, I prefer playing this game on an NVIDIA graphics card because the image is just looking better, while the FPS is still pretty high. If you're using something like the 5070 Ti, you won't be disappointed. Another thing we can do is enable frame generation. Let's check it out. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we will be able to test frame generation today because the game just keeps crashing when I enable frame generation for whatever reason. Yeah, that is unfortunate. Oh, and there we go. I couldn't even get into the menu. I can't get into the game now. What am I supposed to do? Right. Well, this is broken. That's it. I reloaded the PC a couple of times already. That doesn't help, so we'll have to end our Doom the Dark Ages test here, and maybe let's try Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 instead, right? We are at 4K resolution, ultra graphics quality preset, and as you can see, there is no FSR 4 native implementation in this game. It has FSR 3.1, but that means that we can override it using the Adrenaline app, and that is exactly what I did. So we are actually running FSR 4, not FSR 3.1. Let's start with native resolution. By the way, it took AMD ages to add the override feature for this game into their software, into their drivers. I was really disappointed. It was such a long wait, even though this game shipped with FSR 3.1. Basically, any game that has FSR 3.1 is eligible for that FSR 4 override via the drivers. I just don't understand why it took AMD so long to actually implement that feature, whitelist this game for, that override. FSR 4 makes such a huge difference in this game. Oh my. I can't express it with words. Seriously, compared to FSR 3.1 that this game shipped with, this is a completely different visual presentation. The quality, oh, the finer details look perfect. But I am not quite happy with the performance that we're getting, because take a look at this, below 50 FPS over here. What will happen when we reach a large town? Yeah, it's going to be even worse. So I think we have to do something about it. Let's actually use the resolution upscaling. Let's set it to quality mode. That delivers a significantly higher frame rate, making the game more pleasant, while maintaining a good image quality. Yeah, The grass as well as the foliage are not falling apart as they used to with FSR 3.1. We're using FSR 4, baby. Yes, it looks great. Very close to native resolution on the 4K monitor, and the FPS is higher. That's what we want to see. And even when we enter this problematic area right here, we're getting 65 FPS minimum, mostly still well above 60. Perfect. Perfect. This is the 4K experience that I want. Well above 60 FPS, perfect image quality. Yeah. If FSR 4 was in every new game day one, not like 1 or 2 months later, then the 9070 XT would have been perfect. It would have been so competitive versus NVIDIA graphics cards that it competes with, like the 5070 Ti that you sometimes can't get, depending on where you live. And we can even use FSR Balanced mode, and it will still look great, whilst delivering higher frame rate. We're now at 80 plus over here. Let's go back to that area in the castle. Oh, look at that, 90 FPS. Briefly, but I've seen it just now. Take a look at this. Beautiful, smooth experience. We are now at 70 plus FPS instead of 60 plus. Perfect. The image still looks good. Even though we are using the balanced mode, it looks perfectly fine on the 4K monitor. Thanks to FSR 4, of course. Yeah, I definitely recommend you upgrade your FSR 3.1 to FSR 4 in this game if you haven't done it already. It's very easy to do. Just one flick of a switch in the Adrenaline software and it's done. In conclusion, the RX 9070 XT could have been the perfect solution for playing games on a 4K monitor. However, it is heavily held back by the fact that AMD still can't get game developers to add FSR 4 into the latest games. And even when game developers have FSR 3.1 in their game, then AMD still takes ages to enable that override feature that is quite easy to use, and that is the way forward because that's what we'll be using to upgrade to FSR 4.1 or any later versions of FSR in these games, because the game developers will not go back and upgrade it for us. That's why the override feature is so important, and I'm just not happy with the way that AMD is handling that. We need better support for the latest games day one. The Oblivion launches, I want FSR 4 at least override day one, okay, AMD? If you can't deliver at least that, then get out of here. The 9070 XT has to be way cheaper than the 5070 Ti to make any sense. Furthermore, AMD still doesn't have a response to NVIDIA's ray reconstruction that greatly reduces the noise in ray-traced graphics. Yeah, I know that AMD is working on that, but it's still not here. It's a promise. And when we'll get it, who knows? As a result of that, I cannot outright recommend the RX 9070 XT for purchase. Yeah, you just have to be aware of the limitations, and if you are okay with these limitations, then the 9070 XT is actually quite a good GPU. I mean, from a technical point of view, the 9070 XT is brilliant. The ray tracing performance is good. FSR 4 is great. It is just as good as DLSS 4 in my opinion. As soon as AMD gets a grip and delivers a better FSR 4 support in the latest games, I will start recommending the 9070 XT because it's a great GPU, it's just held back by the software. That said, if you don't have any other options, then you can still enjoy your games on the 9070 XT paired with a 4K monitor. If you're interested in any of the products featured in this video, you know where to find them in the description below. Let me know what do you think about the 9070 XT, and if you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, then don't forget to reward my work with a like. It really helps out a lot. Also, subscribe for more videos like this if you haven't already. It was I, Radeon. Until next time.